of its ability to make you feel and be sick. It struck me now, a little late, that John had made me eat the biggest greasy breakfast ever on the way over, and with no explanation. The grumpy man just filled the plate with food before repeating the procedure for the next person in the queue, which, apart from me, looked to be made up exclusively of truck drivers. I ate every mouthful of the fry-up, which tasted great, safe in the knowledge that I would need the calories. John and Dennis just watched on as I fed greedily, not eating, but sipping cups of tea. The three of us looked quite out of place compared with the truckers, none of whom spoke to each other, each sitting on their own. Suddenly, a much closer light appeared offshore, probably just 200 metres or so. A fishing boat. Willie's fishing boat. The boat, which didn't seem very big to me, was illuminated on its flat deck, and I could just about make out the shape of people moving around on board. There seemed to be a small wheelhouse at the front, behind which a roof of some kind covered the flat working area. It was bobbing up and down in the swell, accentuated by the fact that it looked to have come to a halt and was no longer carving its way across the blackness. The boat looked very alone, with nothing else nearly as visible in the offing. John flashed the headlights once more, and this time the code was answered in kind by a search lamp on deck. A sudden sickness came over me. I had felt it before and knew what it was. It wasn't the fry-up. It was fear. "OK, let's go, T-Fowl. Get changed," said John. My heart thumped. I found myself gulping, trying to swallow a lump that had appeared in my throat on hearing John's instructions. I felt myself calm down after a couple of breaths, and a wave of childish excitement came over me, replacing the fear as it did so. John and Dennis got out of the car. Dennis went to the boot and started unpacking various bags and boxes. John rummaged around his own kit bag, a very old-fashioned blue leather Adidas sports grip from another decade, looked at his watch and briefly consulted a page of notes concealed within his trusty book-like clipboard. I had no idea what was written on its pages. John never let me read his notes, and even when I had tried, often, when he wasn't looking, his handwriting was worse than mine. I stood by the rear passenger door of the car, dropped my swimming bag on the slipway, and began the familiar routine of getting changed in the open, with a towel to cover my modesty, even though it was pitch dark with not a person in sight apart from my companions. As I stripped out of my cosy tracksuit, I felt the cool air on my bare skin as the breeze coming off the land blew through me and out to sea. I put on my special trunks, the ones I had worn up at Windermere that summer and the summer before, and tied the cord carefully. I reached in for my bright orange swimming cap and for my favourite pair of goggles. I had remembered to throw some talc into the inside of the cap when packing, so it came open easily, and I pulled it onto my head. It was still quite new and so had the full thickness, which could sometimes deteriorate over a year or more. Not that this in any way contributed to keeping warm. The goggles, were they the right goggles? Yes. They had knots on the elastic on each side to stop them working loose over time, and this special pair had not one but two knots in the right-hand strand. That's how I knew they were the special pair. The goggles were clear ones. John only allowed clear ones. He said it was important to be able to see into a swimmer's eyes. In a minute or so, I was changed, my clothes shoved hurriedly back into my own kit bag. Facing out to sea, I stood still and silent in the breeze, in my trunks, an orange hat, goggles in my hand, and waited for John. "Come here, T-Fowl," he said. I joined him in the light provided by the now full-beam headlights. The surrounding world had become invisible as a result of the brightness. I wondered what the fishing boat was doing, along with everyone on board. Who even was on board, come to that? "Dennis, pass the grease," said John firmly, as he pulled on a pair of blue plastic medical gloves. Dennis handed him a pot from the top of the box of supplies that now lay at the front of the car in the glow of the beams. John opened the large round pot, forced his gloved hand inside, and swore. "Fucking hell." Dennis turned with a quizzical look. "This grease is bloody rock hard." Under normal circumstances, this would be a cause of great amusement, the swimmer forced to endure a cold application, which typically meant the removal of any body hair as the grease was worked onto the skin, although this was less of a problem for me on account of my age. But these were not normal circumstances. "Get it in the footwell, whack up the heating," said John sharply. Dennis, who had just that moment lit a fag, did as he was told. John looked anxiously at his watch again. "And gun the engine while you're at it. We'll start with the Vaz instead." Vaseline, unlike the wool fat that was now under the heater, could be applied cold and was thought to be better for those areas prone to